Stan, here we are in the man cave. See that ring light thing? I was trying to do it before the sun went down. My wife's buggered off out for an hour, so time to do An Ordinary Life, part 2. Now, I am going to be drinking a light refreshment. Cheers. Saturday afternoon, you're allowed to. Very nice. Is it? Oh, I don't know about that. Anyway, I just want to say to people, I don't want anyone to get like lose a bit of faith in me. I like people to come here to have a laugh, and whilst getting militaria. I mean, I do some research sometimes, but I don't want you to think I'm just going to go and talk about myself. I'm becoming a podcaster. I just want to talk about my life. What I'll do is I'll do this week, part 2, and then I'll leave it for a week or so, because I'm backed up with stuff that I've got to do. Obviously, I've got a big parcel of military collectibles. I've got something off World War II, German militaria. I've got a book off Jim Timber. I've got stuff that I really should be reviewing, and I will do that. Let's get to the end of my apprenticeship. So before I go any further as well, also, I did get some positive responses off people from last week's Chitter Chat. I can talk, you know, it's the way I am. A couple of people said through other communications, email, WhatsApp, that, you know, that politically there was a bit of politicalness with the Tories and stuff and this and that and Margaret Thatcher. I just want to get things quite straight that my own, I'm not really a political person. Yeah, I'm in the union. Yeah, I voted Labour most of my life, but that's more to do with where I was brought up. If I was Sir Stan of Stankin, first in line for the surgical truss empire, and my parents were living in a hall somewhere, I'd think differently about life. But my experiences and opinions of sort of the Thatcher era were just by what I was seeing as I was looking about. And, you know, I mean, it wasn't until my early 20s, I remember being in Perth, drinking beer in a bloke's house, a friend of a friend, and he thought Margaret Thatcher, because he bought his council house in London, because she brought that in, he could do that. Bought it as a song, sold it later on for a lot of money. He bought himself a big house in Perth, no mortgage. Fair enough, I get that, but in my opinion and what I saw around here, still this area struggles a bit because of the policies that were in place that could have been done differently. And with that in mind, one of the things I did forget to mention was when I was an apprentice in my second year, so still at college and the training school, we had to go to electrical college for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, can't remember, because you do multi-skilling. And when we used to go along in our cars, there was a great big steel plant, because there was more than one steel plant around here years ago, great big black sheds, and it must have took this fella all week, I can't remember, but he was writing on top in whitewash, RIP, Cargo Fleet, 1888, 1986, something like that. That was the steelworks, that part of getting closed. I wouldn't know where it was now, to be honest, but that if you see that sort of thing, watching the news all the time when you're a kid, and you're from a working class background, you're going to have that opinion. But my channel's not political, and I'm not a political person as such, so I don't want to go down that route. So anything I say, it's just about my observations at the time. And also, this is more about, I mean, I left out some of the things that, you know, there was sometimes bullying going on years ago, like schools, you know, and sometimes it's not nice to recount that sort of thing, in case someone might watch it who's getting picked on. You know, these things happen. I mean, I don't want to go on about that too much, but I'm not going to go on too much about my personal life. This is about my working life and a little bit outside, associated. You don't need to know anything else apart from that. So, you know, if I mention relationships or anything like that, it'll be very brief. And I'm just going to get this off the screen. Something to do with my wife. That's where the limitations of using a phone. So start from when we left the training school. Literally on my 18th birthday, we leave and we all ferried out of this training school onto the end of the main road. And there was escorts and cortinas and whatnot. Lads were going off to Liverpool, Cumbria, Preston, Yorkshire, Great Yarmouth, all going to the Four Winds to start their life as apprentices on site. Now, the strange thing for me was my circle of friends. There was one local lad, and the rest of them were lads who lived in Liverpool and Great Yarmouth. And I lost my friendship circle literally overnight. You know, I didn't really bother with people from school as such as one lad. That was it, gone. I've still kept in touch with some of them, but you know, these things fade over time, don't they? So we had 6 weeks off, and then we had to go report to the headquarters of the firm. I'm going to try and stop naming names and using real names and real companies, because someone might cotton on to who, where and what, you know. So anyway, we had to go to the headquarters of the firm after the 6 weeks, and we were told where we were going. You go here. Right? So me and this lad, we got sent to one of the big chemical works on the Sale Sands place, and very nervous. You know, you're 18 years old. You just think, oh, what am I doing here? You've been at school, really. College and the training school was like being at school, although it was stricter than school, but it was like being at school. You were playing at being a tradesperson, you know, not really being one. And we get on site, and we were stood in a compound. A compound is, well, you know what a compound is. On a chemical works, if you need to work in the plant, you need a permit because you're doing hot work, sparks. There's petrol, there's chemicals. The compound is, as it is, a little fenced-in compound that basically you can do. That's where the offices are, the toilets are, for the contractors, because we were mainly contractors. We had someone there who stood there, and the engineer calls us in the office. And I always remember he had red wing boots, which are like a really high-end, like, high-end, expensive working boot. I've never owned a pair. Didn't see the point, but sat there with his red wing boots on the table. I can't get it off. Shirt and tie on. He had a little one of these little pencil beards, you know, little to make your jaw look square. He was skinny bloke. He looked at us both up and down, and the other lad was a fairly sensible lad. You know, he wasn't like me. And in saying that, I mean, I did try and do my best when I was an apprentice, but always I just thought it was so funny, hilarious, you know. And didn't always work out that way. And he looked and he just went, "I won't take no shit on this site. I've got a job to run. It's not a kindergarten. Any mucking around, and you'll be sent back to the main works, and then they'll deal with you." That was it, basically. And the other lad was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And I was looking, and I just thought, look at hell, he looks like a thunderbird. That's what I couldn't get out of my head. We got outside. I said, "Don't you think he looks like a thunderbird?" And the other lad was like, "I don't know what you mean. FAB Virgil." And then everyone started calling him FAB Virgil because I'd sort of nicknamed that. He didn't like me. There's more of him to come. So we were on this job, and just to be honest, it was fairly straightforward stuff for me as a plater, if you remember, making things out of steel, drilling holes, erecting steel work. It wasn't really something I'd like to be doing now. Really, fairly straightforward. You know, that was, I spent most of my working life on site. You know, I like the interest of being interest. If you see these oil refineries, if you've ever drove past one, they're all around the UK, around the world. So depending where you're around the world, they're all lit up on a night like a city. There's no one walking about. Literally, I've been on all sorts of shifts through my working life on these sort of places. Sometimes you can be the only person walking about. It's like a ghost town. It's strange. They're all bigger than the people who are. They're all of them in control rooms and stuff. So I got working with a fella who was a semi-professional footballer for a local side, and we were rained off like it was peeing down, so we couldn't do the job. So we were sat under a road bridge where the tankers would come in, and he said to me, "What are you doing a weekend?" And I said, I hadn't started playing rugby at this point, and I said, "Oh, nothing." I said, "What do you do?" "I play semi-professional football." I went, "Oh, right." And he said, "I could actually make as much money as work. I don't really need to work." I went, "Oh, all right." So how much do you get then? He just went, "None of your business." And I thought, it's a strange thing to do, isn't it? You know what I mean? It was sort of a leading question. I was on there for a while, and then what they used to do was they transfer you about, and I got put on another site just down the road, part of ICI, and we were doing boiler work, I think. And this is the first time where I really came in contact with galvanised stuff. You know what galvanised stuff is. You've seen it on lampposts and crash barriers and stuff like that. And it was my job to cut it and alter it, and it's not good. Even with a mask on, I've had it a couple of times where it was like zinc poison. They call it galvo flume, and you're shivering and shaking on a night in bed if you're welding it or cutting it. It's not a good substance to work with, I can tell you. And I've done a load of working with that. So yeah, that was that one. Nothing really happened on there. It was just fairly straightforward stuff again. And then it got to the Christmas time, and got a phone call. "Oh, you're going to another site," and it was like a computer centre at ICI on the other side of the river. And so I goes over there, and I quickly realised. I mean, I turned up at the office bit, my toolbox, looking about. all these people in business suits. What are you doing here? I said, I've cut the computer centre. Oh, it's over there. I think it was like the first time I'd realised how technology was going to leap forward, because we were sort of working on bits of steel that would raise the level of the floor up, so all these cables could go underneath, and I think fibre optic things probably. And but also I wasn't needed there. There was about 5 apprentices on the job. I think they mustn't have had much work. So obviously, when you're an apprentice, whatever agreement the firm has with the training provider, they can't really. If they've got no work, they have to find you a position. If that makes sense, they can't just like sack you. You know, because you're getting trained. So I'm mulling along there, just doing my own thing as always, just being cheeky, etc., etc., etc. And then I'd been there about, I don't know, 6 weeks. It wasn't really well into the year. It was 6 weeks. And the engineer called me in the office, and he went, say this was a Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, something. He went, when you go home tonight, take all your tools with you and your overalls and your boots, because you're going to be off for the next 3 days, 2-3 days, whatever it was. You don't have to use any holidays. I went, what do you mean? He says, you're getting transferred to Hull. You're going down there to work away from home. And straight away I was like, oh, gold. I mean, I know like the lads who'd served the apprenticeship with me in the training school, they'd already been away from home, and I'd never been away from home. Army cadet camp, that's it. I'd never really been away from home before. In fact, I hadn't even been abroad by this point. It was only going to be through the week, but still, you think, oh, all right, okay. What do you mean I'm having time off? He went, because of your cheek, there's lads in here want to gaffer tape you to a bench tomorrow in one of the cabins and leave you there all day. I went, oh, okay. And he said, I can't have that, because if there's a fire or something, you might not get out. Right, so you're going to take a couple of days off. I'll do the paperwork. You don't need any holidays. Next, when you go on this job, you're down there, just watch your tongue. I thought, oh, gold. Anyway, so goes down to this job in Hull, 100 miles there, 100 miles back, Monday to Friday. I did have my card somewhere with my little photograph on, my little full head of hair and my little chubby face. Was chubby now, it was chubby hair then. And went down there, and it was the guy I'd first met on site, that engineer, was him again, the FAB Virgil. And I don't know what he was thinking really. I think there was 20 men on site. There was the main contractor building the tank, and we were building all the pipes that came off it. We were doing all that. Say there was 20 men. 7 of them were apprentices, 18-year-old. Now, I keep saying that I was cheeky, I mucked about. I wasn't a complete idiot. I did get on with my job, but what I'm saying is I could be quite forward when I was taught to play. I wouldn't just like be shy and retiring. And a lot of the other lads was very similar. It's just the way young men can be. When you've got a load of them together, and we were getting paid our apprentices' wages, and we were getting paid by cheque, like an allowance, a living allowance, which easily paid for the 4 nights accommodation, your petrol, and of course, light refreshments. So we were going out nearly every night, just getting, Hull, party town, yeah, like anything, that sort of thing. Carry on. And the firm had another site up the road. It had loads of more apprentices on there. So we'd meet up on a night and just have fun, and nothing really happened again. The job was just the same, cutting galvanised stuff, but terrible. I do remember that when you had a thing called caulking. Caulking's like a pneumatic drill, like a pneumatic, that sort of thing. There's a chisel on the end. It's banned now, and basically, I think it's too technical. When a welder welds from one side, they have to take the back out and re-weld it this side to make sure it's clean. If that makes sense. They use grinders now, or arc air. But in those days, they were still doing caulking. So imagine this tank that's 50, 60 foot high, a massive bean tin, if you like, and there's a guy in there with a pneumatic drill, a pneumatic tool. Earplugs and ear defenders weren't enough, and it was right on the estuary. You could look up that way, the Humber Bridge, and then that way at the sea. It was freezing. Absolute February. It was absolutely. Oh, my lips split open. Oh, you kept bleeding. Anyway, that's enough of that. They also, and I've just confirmed this with my dad, because I didn't know whether I'd dreamt it up, because he worked on tank farms a lot. When it was full, it was leaking, so they sent divers in. And I remember the fella. Now I said, my dad said, yeah, that definitely is a thing. I remember the blokes on top with the rubber suits on, or the wetsuits. But my dad said what they did, if they had a leak, they'd go in and they wouldn't repair it there and then, which I thought they might do. They used to put a piece of plate over the top so the suction would keep it there. Then they would drain the tank. They'd know where the repair was needed to be. So there you go. So I didn't dream it. I made the foolish mistake on that job as well of starting to smoke again, just briefly for a few months, because you could get off the job and go on a smoking cabin. Stupid friggin' idiot. That was the last time I ever did it. But the funny side, if there is a funny side, two things stick in my mind. There was a welder on there, and he was an older bloke, probably the same age as my dad. He actually knew my dad, and certain people think they're it, don't they? And I think if you put yourself on a pedestal, you're probably there to be knocked down. He had a few goes at the apprentices. He was sort of picking on one lad, thinking he was clever, and he said something in the cabin one day, and I just told him what I thought of him, and he did physically attack me. He grabbed me by the throat, and what do you do just when you're 18? Just whatever, you're an idiot. And he nearly caused an accident when we were driving to work one morning at 5 in the morning, coming back from this area to Hull. Went to overtake me, put his foot down, and there was a car coming the other way, and he thought it was funny that every dog has its day, don't they? When the weather warmed up a little bit, we were all sat outside, and he was sat outside with us, and I always remember he had a chocolate coloured Sierra, like a really new thing, really nice car, and this van pulled up a load of scaffolders, and if you don't know what a scaffolder is, you've seen them put scaffold up around buildings, and they are fit lads, generally the lads who wouldn't take much shit, if you like, you know what I mean. Generally people who can look after themselves, and they decide that they're going to sit on the bonnet of his car, like, and have their dinner, lean against his car, sit on the bonnet, and you could see he wasn't happy. And I just looked through the fence and I went, if that was my car, I'd ask them to move. And I looked at him, and he didn't. There you go. See, that's the mark of the man, really, I suppose. But the other thing that happened on there was we did, as a group of apprentices, scribble on the toilet walls, graffiti about each other, and some of it was funny, some of it was puerile, immature shit, but we did it against each other. Everyone, we were all doing it. Every apprentice on there was doing it, and I think the main contractor on the site, they complained about vandalism. It's not something I do now, by the way. Anyone from my current employer, I am the perfect employee. I'd say I'd employ me, definitely. I would. Just not when I was 18. And the complaint. So the engineer gets us all lined up in the office. 7 or 8 of us, seven of us. He had a rule in his hand, a rule. And what had happened is someone had wrote something on the toilet wall about him, and questioning his, appetites, if you like. But someone had wrote underneath about me, similar thing. So he's walking up and down. He says, "You lot are going to scrub them toilets and repaint them." And he said, "I know who the ringleader is." And as he walked past me, he jabbed me in the chest with a ruler. "It's you." I said, I'm not." He went, "And you wrote on the toilet wall about me." I said, "Did that?" "No, I didn't." I hadn't. It wasn't me. I'd done other things, but I hadn't done that. And then I said, "Yeah, if it was me, why is that written underneath about me?" He went, "You did that on purpose. So you'd think, I wouldn't think it was you or some shit." I'm thinking, oh yeah, right, oh yeah, fair enough, whatever. So he didn't make us scrub the toilets, but if he had, I'd have done it, because I did it, what I mean? We did do this, so I'd paint the walls, what I mean? You learn lessons in life, don't you? So this is going to be a long video. I think we'll get to the end of my apprenticeship here. So we're in Hull. We get set back from there, and we end up, again, I think near enough everyone on there went on back to the Seal Sands complex again. And we had a big compound there. This was a bit more involved, this job. I had to do like development work and stuff, and to get my head together. I couldn't like be fooling around all the time. Not that I did, just maybe in the cabin sometimes, but did some development work like pipes and stuff, and it was quite interesting. It's quite sad, as I said in the last video when I went out with my father the other week. This site's now getting pulled down, and I did some work on there. I even brought the templates home from the pipes I made because I was so proud of them. I eventually threw them in the bin, but they'll have all been there, definitely still there, because it was like the main feed into the plant. But yeah, that's life. So we're on there, and the one thing I will say about myself, that despite the fact that sometimes I can be, especially when I was younger, I'd say cheeky, outspoken, or just I'd stand my ground. You know, I don't like bullies. I don't like being bullied, if that makes sense. So I would stand my ground, and I certainly, you know, people say I won't take no shit. I mean, it depends, doesn't it? It depends on what the situation is. I mean, if someone's talking to you at work, and you know that they're not being 100%. Does it matter sometimes if you always have to be proved right? You don't have to be proved right. Sometimes you just get on with your job, don't you? And I think you realise as you get older. When you're younger, you still think you do what you want. You know, you're full of feist. But I got on this job, and I was introduced to a fella. I won't say his name because I have to stop mentioning people's names. But he introduced me to rugby. I got put with him. He was a mechanical fitter, and I worked with him later on in life. And he said, "What do you do on the weekend?" I said, "Nothing. Don't do anything really." He went, "Why don't you come play rugby?" I said, "Well, I played at school, but not for the school, just in PE and stuff." And I said, "Oh, well, was that good?" He said, "Come down with me, I'll bring you down." He took me to training on the Thursday night, and I went abroad for the first time that year to, God, no, that's why I have to do this video, so I can't remember where I went abroad. Where did I go abroad? Mallorca with my friend. And it was either just before or just after. So it was early, I think it was after late, so I might have been 19. I can't remember. And he took me down, and I was shite. Literally crap. Couldn't catch a ball, couldn't tackle. You name it, I couldn't do it. But I loved it. I loved the being in the pub after club afterwards, the first time I went and played away from home, the traditions, the this, that and the other. And that was 1988. Well, I'll say September 1988. And I played my last game of rugby in October 2019. So that's 31 years. Now, there was years in between there I didn't play. I think 92 I didn't play at all. I was coming back and forth from Australia. I had an injury in 2004 that kept me out. I think I played 2 games in 3 years. And when I came back from Australia in 2010, I wasn't playing 80 minutes every week, but I did get another sort of 9 years in. So I have had a long enough career, probably because I didn't play when I was younger. Never had any injuries when I was younger. 19, you get into a man. And also when I did get injured, I listened to my body. I was quite fit as well, so I'm probably lucky. I don't know. I mean, I did have some injuries. I might mention them later on. So anyway, got on that job, and then I used to travel with this lad and another lad. I'd pick them up. In your apprentice, you want to drive your car, don't you? Your Mark 5 Cortina. And, you know, they were married, and the wives needed the cars and stuff and all. Anyway, so one night I'd been out, as you do when you're an apprentice, on a Wednesday, painting the town red. And the next thing I knew, they were banging on my mum and dad's front door. You know, I'd got in about 3 o'clock in the morning. So I got in their car, they come and got me. And we goes to the site, and the engineer's looking out the window. We were like an hour late. You know, so I just straight away, this is what I mean about, like, sometimes you've got to stand up and be counted. I just went straight up to his office, and I went, "It was all my fault. I was out last night. I stayed out too late, and I let these lads down." And he just looked at me and went, "Do it again, I'll sack you." I went, "Fair enough." Hey, I'm thinking back here on these stories I'm telling you, I was going to get the sack. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I don't know, but I admitted it. I admit it was my fault. I'm not hiding behind anybody. And I did keep my nose clean for the rest of the time I was on that site, I think. I mean, I remember, and oh God, I'm getting my mind confused now. Into 89. Is it into 89? Oh, there was part of that job where we were on a shutdown, which is like 7 days a week, but the apprentices couldn't work it. We could just do like 5 days early, finish on a Friday. And I'd made this steel work. And the strange thing about the sites, you would have a lot of pipe fitters, a lot of welders, fitters, but only a few platers, and there was only 2 tradesmen on there and me. And I got this job to do all on my own. I didn't even have a labourer to help me. I had to measure it all out. And it got sent away and got galvanised. It was laid on the ground on the Friday when I left, and I came in on the Monday. I thought, I'm hoping it was fitted. It was still there. And I got this crane in, I lifted it up. Now, you've got to remember these cranes, you've seen them on the road, the great big things, Grayson White, Sparrow, all these things. They cost a lot of money per hour to hire. So they're going to lift this thing up 60 foot in the air. Doesn't fit. At 19-year-old, it's on me. You know, and you just think, And the engineer he was hopping up and down on the steelwork, saying, "If this doesn't fit, you're sacked. If this doesn't fit, you are sacked. I'm going to sack you." Honestly, I mean, it's not a joke. This is how things were. And it fit. Ah, no one was more surprised than me, I guarantee you that. There was a little bit, something the welder had to do, I can't remember, just yeah, do that. And yeah, I don't know who was more pleased. I don't think the engineer was pleased because the job was going ahead well, or maybe the fact I'd done it. So anyway, around this time, again, this goes back to standing in your corner. The jobs that I was doing apart from that one, really, they were quite simple, little tiny things. Now I needed, what I thought in my mind was, I'm out my apprenticeship next year, 1989. I need to be competent in everything to survive. I could finish my apprenticeship, get made redundant. So they had a big workshop in Stockton, and I requested to go in there. And we had a guy from Leeds used to come up and see how we were getting on because it was a national apprenticeship scheme, and for some reason he didn't take to me. I didn't have much interaction with him. You could just tell. And I had an interview with him or a meeting with him at the local at the big workshop. And any problems? And I said, well, yeah. The HR guy was there for the firm. I said, I'm not learning anything. You know, I've learned everything I can about site work. And he was like, well, no, you haven't. I said, well, I'm competent in everything I'm doing. I'm on my own. I need to be in the shop. And the HR guy for the company went, yeah, we'll get him in there. And he went out to do something. This fella turned around me, and he went, smart now, I said, no, I'm not being smart. He went, yes, you are. I said, well, look. I said, I've got to try and make sure that I get trained properly. You know, that's what I'm looking at. Anyway, I did end up in the shop. And I got put with a template maker at first. And I turned up 8 o'clock, laughing and joking. Hello, morning. I'm Steel Helmet Stan, the new apprentice. And this fella was 6'3", and bald-headed bloke with a bib and brace on. And he went to me, listen, I get here at 5 to 8 on a morning. You get here at 7:45 on the morning and sweep this steel down for me to start marking it off. Otherwise, you get a clip round your ear, rugby player or not. And I was like, oh, all right. He turned out to be a really nice fella, actually. But he put me in my place. Like I say, I could be cheeky. I got on my job when I had to. I also ended up working the shop steward a little bit as well. That was just I went to the pub a few times in the afternoon. You can't do that nowadays. That was the old days. Also at this time, I had my first real rugby injury. I still have a few scars on my hand. When the winter my hand gets cold, basically, we were playing touch rugby. And this is where my little personal life ekes out a little bit. And I put my hand down on the floor and a lad ran across it with all his studs. And I remember, I felt like my hand was creaking. I turned my hand out and it was just swelling up. I could see it swelling up. Didn't damage any bones, didn't damage any nerves, but my fingers went purple, literally, after a day or so. So I went into work and they said, look, this is just before Christmas. You've got loads of holidays left, because I didn't know anything about holidays or anything like that. So you can just be off. Don't come back till January the 10th. So that's what I did. Oh God, this is going to be such a, where are we now? We're in 1989, I better hurry up. Sorry. Anyway, so, in and out of that workshop, and end up back on one of the sites again, where some bastard smashed into my car. I was on 2 till 10 on one of these chemical works, and I got up the next day, I drove home, and the cortina, the two of the indicators were hanging out. Someone had stoved the side of my car and trying to get out the car park, and they were a bit rotten inside. Me indicator steel holder things, it all just collapsed. I drove around with that car with like masking tape on the indicators for the rest of the time I owned it, about another year. So that it was on 6 till 2, 2 till 10 shifts for the first time. I didn't think the apprentices were supposed to do that, but we did, and it wasn't a bad job. That was interesting. So again, working on my own, So by the time it came to the 4th year of apprenticeship, I was doing a tradesman's job, and like I said in the last video, they were probably charging ICI the going rate. Why wouldn't they? I mean, that's like, that's what firms do, don't they, make money. So my apprenticeship, we have come to the end of it. I probably forgot some stuff, but I can't keep talking all the time. This might be a 40-minute, so we'll see. It was a 4-year apprenticeship. Now, years ago, my daddy did 5. In the 70s, I think it became 4. What they said ours was, and I started like sort of 6 weeks late, you can do 3 if you're good enough to come out your time, or 5 if you're not good enough to keep you on for another year, ideally 4. Now, if you think, there was only one lad I knew who went to another company and he got brought out at 3 years. But if you think about it, if you are a company and you've got a job with 7 apprentices on there and you're charging British Steel or whoever it is, 7 men's wages at full price, because these lads, we were all doing a proper tradesman's job. You're not going to bring them up with time early, are you? So we ended up, you could tell the work was running down. We went for nature walks on this site, and there was a thing where there was fresh water tanks for firefighting, and one of the ICI fellas said, "Oh, there's carp in there," and we thought, "Yeah." He said, "No, we keep carp in there to keep the inside of the tank clean and nibble all the crap off." Anyhow, there was a big net on the end of a pole. He said when they come out sometimes, I don't know if they had some sort of drainage system or overspill. There was a ditch in the ground, well, that deep, that wide. It's more of a, not a ditch, well, bigger than a ditch, dead long. He said sometimes they're in there, we scoop and put them back in. I did see one, definitely swimming up and down, great big thing like that. And they must have put it back in. Yeah, we used to go on nature walks. Anyway, one day, I think in the spring, can't remember the exact date, the personnel fellow, the health and safety bloke for the firm, we seen him on site, and he wasn't due. And I think there was five apprentices on that site and only a couple of tradesmen. You know, we weren't doing much. He got us all in the office, and I thought, oh, we'll get sacked here. And he said, right, you know, explained the rules. We all knew the rules. Anyway, we're bringing you out your time early. Every apprentice this year is coming out the time next week, and you're going straight onto a shutdown, 7 days a week, 12 hours. I was 11 hours, I think, for a month, and you can't have a day off. But you're out your time, you get tradesman's rate, and it was like, wow, oh, that was a shock to the system. And we did do it, and I did it, and it's probably the most hours I've worked in one belt, I think. I've come close to, you know, a few times. I've worked 5-6 days a week, you know, sorry, 5 or 6 weeks, 7 days a week, but never like 12 hours all the time. It's a hard thing to do. I've done 3 weeks, 7, 12. You know, I've been around the edge of it, but that, especially being like when you first out your time, it was a bit of a shock to the system. But you know, the money, you got paid a lot of money for doing what you did. And then I'll try and keep this as short as I can. I'll try and shave a bit of time off. So then at the end of the shutdown, they basically came around with brown envelopes and told everyone, barring me, apprentice-wise, that they were redundant next week. But this company used to do that a lot. They'd give you then rescind the notice. I don't know what that was about. But I got told that I was going to Norsk Hydro. I'll say the name of that company because that was a munitions factory in Newton Aycliffe, and there was a load of women killed. I think they're called the Aycliffe Angels. Should have researched that, shouldn't I? But the Aycliffe Angels, right at the end of the war, something happened in the factory and there was a massive explosion and a load of them died. So this place became a polymer plant. So I goes on this job, and I was there to put a new staircase in, like steel erecting, if you like. But the main squad of people were doing their own maintenance thing. And it was like, well, give us a shout if you need a hand. I was there on chain blocks pulling it up myself. But there was some old bits of stairway, so I had to get up and cut it with a thing called a burning gear, oxy gas cutter. Now, at first I was given a little belt, so I could climb on the steelwork attached to something, and I don't think I had a mask on. And this stuff underneath, this white polymer, was burning. I can smell it now, it'll be fucking nose. Sorry, I shouldn't have swore there. Burning my nostril hair. And then the health and safety guy for the company came and went, you should be wearing that belt, you should be wearing a harness, like a parachute harness. Did it? Got one of them. And then, I mean, little did I know at the time, you know, if you fall in one of those harnesses and you can dangle, I can't remember what it's called now, is it hanging suspension shock syndrome or something? The blood pulls in your legs, and when you get rescued, the bad blood, the deoxygenated blood, gives you a heart attack. You know, no one gave it, no one did anything, no one cared. So I was doing that, and then he said you should have a mask on, disposable mask. Still the stench of this, like burning plastic. I didn't know. You know what I mean? You look, if you're watching this video, go, oh, fucking hell, didn't know that. In the end, their health and safety guy came on. I ended up with a mask on. This is after 3 or 4 days, with an airline attached to it. So what poison was in that? Who knows? So anyway, I came to the end of that after a month, and they phoned me up, the firm, and said, look, there's no work for you. Either choice is yours. You either make you redundant, or you go in the office at one of the offshore yards that they owned as a technical clerk, and you will go back to college, and you know, you did okay in your college, which I did. I did all right. That wasn't fantastic, but I did all right. Maybe they saw a bit of promise in me. I don't know. So I goes down to this office on the Monday morning in a rugby shirt a pair of tracksuit bottoms and a pair of Adidas trainers. And I turned up at the engineer's door and he went, "You dressed like that to come in here? You work in office now?" I thought, oh. So I had to spruce myself up a little bit. And basically I was just checking the elevations of pipes on these drawings. It was, God, tedious beyond belief. And I just thought, I want to travel. I want to work abroad. I want to see some of the things. I had like 4 or 5 months working in Hull, just being there through the week. It's not really working away from home, but I wanted to see what some of these old blokes. I mean, I was brought. There was no one who fought in the Second World War I worked with. I think they'd gone. Well, there were some of the instructors initially, but all these fellas had done national service. They'd worked all around the world. I wanted to do something like that. That's what I wanted to do. Now, in hindsight, looking back, maybe I should have stuck with the office job. We never know where it may have led me, but I didn't. And one day, I actually did go on site a couple of times with my white hard hat on and my nylon shirt, and all my mates were on the oil rig catcalling me. "Oh, look, there he is with his drones under his arm." And looking back, I think, yeah, maybe. But anyway, I got the local paper, opened the paper. Platers, welders, shipwrights, associated trades wanted, German shipyard. And I thought, right, I'll ring them up. This was the Friday afternoon. I rang them up and they said, "Right, can you come for an interview now?" And it was just down the road. I went, "Yeah, I will." So I said to the boss, I'm just leaving early, I've got to go to the dentist or whatever I said. Down I went. And they said to me, "How do you feel about working with lads from Sunderland?" I said, "I don't care." So what had happened around here, the shipyards had all closed on the River Tees. And so had the ones in, I think the ones on the Tyne might have been still open, but light refreshments. But the ones on the Weir had gone North East, Shipbuilders Limited. So there was loads of spare men hanging about. Germans wanted guest workers. So this was the contract. So I said, "Right, yeah, I'll do it." I said, "I'll have to put a week's notice in at work." The bloke went, "You can't, you've got to fly on Monday." So I thought, oh crap. I went home, asked my dad's opinion. Still, I was only 19. Yeah, was I 19 or 20? I might have been 20. Yeah, I was 20. He said, "I wouldn't do it if I were you. Never burn your bridges," which is a very true thing to say. I phoned up the personnel fella about 10 to 5. I said, "Look, I'm leaving." He went, "When?" I said, "Now." So I'm leaving on Monday. I have to go on Monday. He went, "Well, you're giving us no notice?" I went, "No." And he went, "Listen to what I'm saying. You will never work for this company again. Do you understand me?" I went, "Yeah, okay." And I wasn't doing it to be clever. Honestly, I wasn't. It might come across. I hope it doesn't come across at all. I wanted to do it for me. I just wanted for me, for right or wrong. If I'd gone out there and got sacked, it'd be my own stupid fault. But I wanted to do it for myself. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to knock the bloke off. He actually said to me, "We wanted you to go back to college. You wanted to do this, do that." And look at me now. I still wear overalls for a living. So maybe he was right. One thing he was right about was I never worked for that company again. I did try and get back in. The guy who introduced me to rugby in the early 90s, I said, "I'll see if he can get me in on the thing." And he come back a couple of days later and went, "Your name is Mud." I mean, whether these things spread out in your working life, I don't know. Whether I've been banned or kept away from other jobs because of that, I don't know. People have influences, don't they? But I'll try and finish this now to keep it. So basically, I'm going to Germany I was there 5, 6 months. There was 3 trips, I think, so many months. I only came home once. I didn't do the full, after the Christmas I didn't go back, so it was from the summer to the winter, and I came home for 1 weekend in the middle. And Monday morning, be outside the pub, my hometown. Pub was here, parents lived here, and we were going that way. I can't remember where we flew from, to be honest. I was so scared, so nervous, that I packed in my suitcase all my manuals for my apprenticeship, big stack of books about like how do you do this and how do you do that. Not that it was going to do me any good. Never worked in a shipyard before. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm stood there, 2 big suitcases. The agent pulls up, the other fella in the car. I get in the back. He went, "You going somewhere nice, son?" All the luggage. I went, "Oh yeah." And he said, "This is the welder." I remember his name. Shook his hand. And he went, so we were driving away past my parents' house. He went, "You're the plater." And I went, looked at my parents, "I'm the what? The plater?" He went, "Yeah, you're the only plater we've got." And I'm thinking, I've never worked in a shipyard before. I don't know I don't got a clue. As it turned out, I had the time of my life. And earned a little bit of money, which consequently wasted on crap. But that's the way it is. So that was my apprenticeship. And that's 40 minutes, and that's too long. I'm not going to do any more of this for another week or so. I'll try and compact it down a little. That was my ordinary life. That was my apprenticeship years done, and maybe I should have stayed in the office. Then again, I don't know. I made the decision, and that was it. I went with it, for right or wrong. And as you get older, all those things are in your memory. So I could have had 6 months of memory of sat looking at isometric drawings, one after the other, and going to college one night a week. Or I could have been singing the Banana Song by Harry Belafonte on a bar in Bremerhaven. But that is another story. And this is Stan. And I will see ya.